Welcome back to the Red Dirt Road podcast. Marshall Farnthorpe and Alex Breitenbach. How's it going?
Doing just fine. Doing. Just finished up some midterms, so kind of out of the woods there. But how you doing?
Good. Been 2 weeks since we record. Usually we do every week, but we had some kind of stacked up and we were kind of busy last week. So good. We are going to be talking about something we don't usually do. It's a Netflix special, but seemed to do pretty well with the Garth Brooks thing. So I figured we'd talk about this. It's called ReMastered, Tricky Dick, and the Man in Black, a Johnny Cash story. And it's released 2018, 59 minutes long. Nice that it's not super long, kind of condensed. It's a little story. So we're going to get into that in a minute. Also found out that there's actually some Ronnie Dunn songs that he came out with since we've been doing this podcast that I did not know about. I don't know if you saw these, but we're gonna be getting into those. Um, there were some songs last year that were just like he didn't really advertise them. They were just he was on different songs, different albums, little things here and there. And speaking of Johnny Cash, his son is helping coming out with this Johnny Cash album that Ronnie Dunn is on the album. They just released it. It was about a week or so ago, and it's a song written by Johnny Cash. It's called "Out of Sight Tonight," I believe is what it's called, and it was written by Johnny Cash, but it was never recorded, and so Brad Paisley ended up actually doing the melody for it and did all the music, and then Ronnie Dunn is singing on it. So, or Brad Paisley and his band did the music, and Ronnie Dunn sang on it. So that's kind of cool. We'll get into that soon. But there was even I think there was a song I found last year. It was last summer that Ronnie Dunn was like featured on some kind of song, and we completely missed that. So we'll be getting into that as well. Maybe actually by the time you hear this episode, it's already out. So we'll get into
hopefully.
that. So before I go through, I'm gonna try to go through the breakdown of all my notes on this thing. Before we do that, why don't you give us a little teaser on what you think about this? Not like a full explanation, just a quick if you like it, don't like it.
No. I like it, and what I think is awesome about it is not that it is, well, okay, it is a biography, but it's less about Johnny Cash's life as a whole and more about a singular facet of his life. And that's kind of what I like about it. And that's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to really delve into it that much. I'll get into it after you.
All right, so I had a lot of notes actually for this documentary thing, Netflix special, whatever you want to call it, even though it's only 1 hour. So, and I actually did this because we were supposed to record last week. So I'm going to try to kind of go on the fly here, or kind of remember what exactly I said. So it's got this little sort of intro with this opening quote that I wrote down. It says, "We have the right to burn this. We have the right to burn this flag, and the right to bear arms. You burn my flag, I'll shoot you." And that was a pretty funny thing, and I like that. And I was like, yeah, you got the right to burn the flag, but burn my flag, I'll shoot you. And that's how he felt. A lot of race relations prevalent in the United States in the 1970s. It kind of does a little montage of that. This opening question it gives is, will Johnny Cash play rebel music or gospel music when he was invited to the White House? So any takeaways? We'll kind of go through this, give our opinions, let's say as we go through the breakdown, so that we're not, you know. So what did you think of that opening sequence? Before it went to his early years.
The opening sequence, it definitely, I liked it. It definitely was. It's very descriptive. Although what I liked about the question that they asked, is Johnny Cash gonna play rebel music or is he gonna play gospel music? That really does show that, while not giving necessarily an in-depth biography about his life, it shows that Johnny Cash is a multifaceted person and that he wasn't mainstream country, or okay, he was mainstream country, but he was a different blend. Like he was just a different blend altogether. He was a genre bender, and I think that's what a lot of people loved about him, is the fact that he wasn't just the one guy sitting up there talking about just rebel music, just mainstream country music. It was like he had his own spin on it. He was a believer in Jesus, a hardcore Christian, but at the same time, he saw empathy for everybody. And I think that's kind of what had like that little sequence there embodies.
Yeah, it really gave a little bit about Johnny Cash and where the United States were at this time. I liked it. It was quick and to the point. And then it kind of goes into what I would call the early years, Johnny Cash. And I really like this. I want to kind of learn more about Johnny Cash because he's really one of the most prominent artists in American history. I mean, he was massive for 50 years, really. It says that he was born in southern Arkansas, in Kingsland, Arkansas. Moved to Dyess, Arkansas at the age of 3. He said his family would sing gospel songs. The male members of the family were preachers. Most of them in his family grew up in they were a lot of conservative, patriotic family members. They believed to always support the government and the president. Patriotism became controversial around this time in the United States, largely because of race relations and the war. They said Nixon lost the presidential race in '68, and then sort of the last part of this is that Johnny's brother Jack died at this young age, was killed by a saw. So what do you think about that part? Kind of talk about the early years of Johnny Cash.
Well, they definitely talk a lot about Johnny's relationship with his family, and particularly his father, in this section. I think well, first of all, for Johnny, the loss of his brother so suddenly was absolutely it just destroyed him. It crushed him, and he became sort of, at least from what they say, it just took on a whole nother a, a new meaning to his life and the way he thought about things. Because they mentioned that his brother was the more like preferred person by his father, the one who was kind of seen as perfect and was going to be a preacher per se, was supposed to like take over the family business or whatnot. And with the loss of Johnny Cash's brother, now Johnny Cash is kind of bearing the weight of kind of having to be the only person that his father is looking to, like, carry on the family, but at the same time his father doesn't really want, was kind of ashamed of Johnny, and was always very critical of Johnny growing up, and that tumultuous relationship with his father is what's going to build Johnny Cash the man as he goes about, like his career.
Yeah, he definitely seemed like he liked his other son Jack a lot more. I completely agree. It's an area of the country I'm not too familiar with. Never been to Arkansas. Obviously, never been to southern Arkansas. So yeah, it was interesting to me. This next section is a large section. They kind of jumped to like 25 years later. So he's in the early years of his career, but obviously he becomes big really quickly. And this section kind of leads all the way up to the White House visit. He goes to the Folsom Prison and records it live there, and that's a lot of times when you hear that song, it's him recording that live right there. At this point, they said around 1968, he didn't have very strong political beliefs. Um, Folsom Prison Blues went number one, and it was the album of the year as well. Richard Nixon, they start to get into talking about a little bit more. Said he believed in Middle America, um, law and order, that sort of thing. Also noted that he played the piano live. Interesting. Did not know that. Never really seen a president just hop on there and play the piano. Thought that was an interesting thing.
Playing
Old
playing it at the
Donald Trump,
Opry,
I
no
didn't see
less.
him or Barack Obama or any of them playing.
No.
They have the Johnny Cash show. They kind of go back and forth to that. He had they note that they didn't take any political stands on the show. They had Democrats, Republicans. Um, there started to become at that point towards 1969 this sort of a divide between the news and the government. News kind of questioning the government a little bit more. Nixon had made a public service announcement that he had asked for the support of the public to strive to end the war, with the United States being on top. Cash came out in support of this, and Nixon at this point sent him a letter of appreciation and invited all of the Cash family to the White House for for some sort of a concert. And he requested "Okie for Muskogee" by Merle Haggard, which, by the way, that little side note, that is actually one of the Ronnie Dunn songs that he helped cover last year that we're going to get into, complete out of this kind of realm, but a good song nonetheless. And then some other song I'm not really familiar with, "Welfare Cadillac" by Guy Drake. He said that, or the special went on to say that Johnny Cash and Nixon had these sort of similar upbringings. That Johnny Cash was a big advocate for the rights of Native Americans, always supported the troops. And then he meets this preacher named Billy Graham. And then, sort of right at the end of this section, we get this depressing note that Johnny Cash hears from his dad, and he says that I don't have the exact quote, but he's not impressed at all.
He said that he told his dad he was having dinner with Billy Graham and talking to Billy Graham, who, if for those of you listening in who don't know, Billy Graham was a very, very famous televangelist of that era, perhaps one of the most famous of all time. And he's known to have met with many presidents and many other notable figures and stuff, and just a really uh, very big personality in terms of the early televangelism, not like the Joel Osteen or other stuff of today. This was different. Billy Graham was a very influential figure, and so I guess Johnny Cash must have thought that that would make his dad smile, that would make his dad proud, and that was really sad to hear that, honestly.
Yeah, what a shitty dad, This guy, I mean, he has this great hit. I mean, this is not a some kind of a sellout hit. Folsom Prison Blues goes to number one. It's attracted audiences, from critics to fans. Very respectable song, loved all the way in the 2020s. And then he still keeps his faith, and he meets with this famous preacher, and his dad, doesn't. He says you're nothing. I mean, what a piece of work that guy is.
Yeah.
And then it starts to get into the White House concert, which is kind of what this whole thing is leading up to. And Nixon makes this quote, and he says, "Country and Western music is American music," which, in a certain sense, that's definitely true, because that's sort of our genre here. That's it's American made. It's sort of a regional sound. Whereas you have other sounds that are kind of born other places. Rock and roll, real big in the UK, um, sort of things like that. And it said, had this little question again that it had in the intro that says Johnny Cash would have to decide, or no, sorry, didn't have a question. had this little interesting note that I did not know. It said Johnny Cash would decide which songs he would play, basically later live. He wouldn't really give his band, he wouldn't tell them which songs he was going to play. He would just decide it right there when they were playing. And they said that he refused to play the two songs that Richard Nixon had requested. And so he ended up singing a song about war, and he gave an intro, a long kind of talk, and then the song kind of about his time in or Vietnam. Shortly after the concert, Nixon and the U.S. Invaded Cambodia, and people did not agree with this. They had the Kent State riots. I've been to the Kent State University, seen they got some monuments there, and then Johnny Cash began to play some more political anti-war tunes. And then 1990 or 1972, we had the Nixon trials, and Johnny Cash released the Man in Black song to end the special. So I will give my opinion on this. Thought it was a very good, very well made special, concise. 1 hour. It's certainly not the full Johnny Cash documentary, which I don't even know if there is one because it would take a complete box set to get all the Johnny Cash story. But this is just like the title says, it's a Johnny Cash story, and I would definitely recommend it to anyone that is a country music or Johnny Cash fan, or even um, a fan of history. So I enjoyed it. It was informative, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I honestly, I would recommend this to everyone, not just people who like country music, not just people who know who Johnny Cash is, because this is an important piece of not only the history, the biography that of the memoir of Johnny Cash's life, but also it's an important piece of American history. That song that he sang there at that White House concert was called "What Is Truth," and that was something that he had just written previously and decided to perform, and it was very much an anti-war song. And people, because again, when he invited, because it seems like in these days that like country music had become very divisive. Like if you were really on board with like Merle Haggard and the other country music artists of the day, you were a Nixon supporter. That's why you loved Welfare Cadillac and Okie from Muskogee. Those are very, very anti-liberal policies songs. Now, Johnny Cash did not want to play that part. He did not want to play the part of being uh, thrown in with the rest of them. He wanted to appeal to everyone. He wanted to show that, hey, I'm an American. America comes first, but I love all Americans. I'm here for everybody. And I think that's one of the points, that one of the theses of this awesome documentary. And it really shows, because when he's performing "What Is Truth," it's pure. And the entire concert, like you said, he makes it up kind of as he goes along. It's just, whatever he's going to play, he's going to play. And even though um like and everybody still enjoyed the concert anyways, even though they didn't get to hear Welfare Cadillac, even though they didn't get to hear Okie from Muskogee. That was basically Johnny Cash saying, like, screw off to Richard Nixon, because he knew that he wasn't going to become a political tool. They wanted, and that's also what the documentary says. Like they wanted Johnny Cash to advocate, to campaign on behalf of Richard Nixon. And he's like, no, I'm not choosing sides. And that's what I also love about the portion of the documentary about the Johnny Cash show, where he has everybody on the show. Like even what's his name, Pete Seeger. Like, as the documentary said, he had supported the president, and he still does, no matter who the president is. But he was kind of backing the policy of Vietnam for a little bit, even though he wouldn't really tell it to many people. But once he goes to Vietnam, he plays for the soldiers in multiple camps. He realizes like the horrors of what is happening in the Vietnam War, and so he goes back home and he channels that energy, and it changes his mind. I think he has a change of heart there, and ultimately that all builds up to 1972. You have the song "Man in Black," which it's my favorite Johnny Cash song ever. Like compared with Ring of Fire, compared with Baby Ride Easy, any of the songs he wrote with Willie Nelson and Waylon Jennings, The Highwaymen. No, this is my favorite Johnny Cash song of all time, "Man in Black," and I like it because it's finally him sort of coming clean with who he is, revealing who he is to the world in a song. You know, why he why he dresses in black. Like, you know, and and that really shows that he's here for everybody. He's here for you and he's here for America.
That is Tricky Dick and the Man in Black. I think maybe Folsom Prison Blues might be that's definitely one of my favorite Johnny Cash songs. It's hard to really pick one. I've Been Everywhere is another one of my favorite
Oh,
ones.
that's a great one.
Um,
That's a great one.
but yeah, one more thing before we go. We kind of talked about it before the episode. So I was actually just in Columbus, Ohio, pretty nice city, for our cousin's birthday party, and so we got to see all the family there. Nice, and actually, Martin is our one of our cousins, a little bit younger than us, in kind of junior high kind of age, and I'm trying to get the whole family listening to the podcast because I slipped in his ear. I was like, "Hey, Red Dirt Road podcast," and he's got there's a bunch of kids living in the house there, so if we get everyone listening, I mean that's an extra. That's almost 10. That's almost 10 per episode. 5 to 10. So
Grow,
and I
grow in
told
any
him
way you can.
I was like, hey, you can be on the podcast when Alex, probably be easiest when let's say come back to Ohio when he's a lot of times up there with you guys. We'll make it happen. I'm thinking maybe even a live show, New Year's Eve live show, New Year's Eve live show from the
That'd be
New Year's Eve
nice.
party. Get Martin on there.
A live New Year's Eve epic special next year.
The ball
That'd be
drop.
awesome. I have one last thing to say. I highly recommend the Johnny Cash Museum. It's one of the best places I've ever been to. Lot of history in there if you're interested in learning about Johnny Cash.
So we will see you guys next time.